Hey guys, it's Gus from the Garage Specialist, and today we're going to be teaching you guys how to install your own traction control system. This is Hondata's traction control system. Just a quick breakdown of what it does is it controls wheel spin. It takes the input from the front wheel and it compares it to the back, and it calculates the difference, taking the back as the true reading, and it makes the calculation and it cuts power. It does that by retarding the timing on your vehicle. Once you have enough traction, it will give it full power as you're gradually building up that traction. So let's check out what's inside the box. Comes with a module. Comes with the wiring. Comes with a little USB cable, a switch, and the cable for the switch. It comes along with some zip ties and a Hondata sticker. Typical stuff. Now the stuff that you're going to need to install this. You're gonna need a wiring diagram. I'll put a picture up showing my wiring diagram, but this is a small breakdown of my wiring. Another thing that I should mention is not every car has the same wiring diagram. For example, this is for a 2007 Civic Si 4-door. Now the coupe, the colors are different, but you guys pull up the wiring diagram for your own vehicle. I'll be doing this one on a 2007 Civic Si sedan. Okay, now let's move on to some of the tools, basic tools you will need. Okay, some of the basic tools you will need is, this is to pop clips. You could use a screwdriver, but that's what that does. Pens, paper to write on, because you will be writing out which wires which, front and rear. You could use ohm meter if you like. I have a test light that is almost like an ohm meter. It doesn't put a load on it. It just gets a reading out of it, so I'll be using this, but I do have an ohm meter, and that is an option just in case I need it. You'll need some sort of wire strippers. I have two different types. You could use your regular one or this fancier one, but whichever one feels comfortable with you. And then we also have soldering. You will need a soldering kit. This is a smaller one. It uses propane. It's easier to get smaller places. This is the one you connect to the outlet. It's a lot bigger, harder to maneuver in certain places, but you will need to solder some of these wires. You're gonna need some electrical tape, flashlight. This is to cut harnesses open, and screwdriver. That's pretty much the basic stuff. Now let's move on to the actual car. Okay, now on the vehicle, this is where your ABS module is. There's a plug that goes right here. You're gonna disconnect that, and this is where we're gonna be tapping into the speed sensors and getting our power source. And then the opposite side is where your ECU sits. Now on this side, this is where your ECU sits. It usually has a plastic cover over it. Take that off and slide the ECU out. Make sure you disconnect your battery before you get started touching any of this wiring stuff. And we're just gonna be looking at one of the connectors. I believe it's the A23 pin. It's on the first plug, that one. But we'll do that, we'll leave that alone for right now, and we're gonna start diving in where to tap in for those speed sensors. Now you're gonna wanna jack up the car, all four wheels, and put them on jack stands. After you do that, you're gonna remove your right front wheel, remove the cover for the plastic cover that goes around, and you're gonna gain access to your harness through there. Unplug the module that I showed you earlier and pull the wires through. You're gonna move about 3 of these clips. Just unclip them with your tool or screwdriver. Just pop those out to give you some room. Pull the whole harness through and cut it open. Make sure you don't damage any wires. Just take your time, take off the tape, and open it up. Once you open it up, you're gonna start seeing these wires that are twisted around. These are each individual speed sensor. Now remember, for my vehicle, the wiring diagram that I'm using is for my specific vehicle. If you have a 2-door or a different year vehicle, you'll have to get the actual diagram for your specific car. So this is just a rough breakdown. Very hard to see, but I'll read it to you. So for example, we're looking at the front right wheel. That one is gonna be pink and green wire. So now we're gonna look through here and we see that we have a pink and green wire. So we're gonna be tapping into these. According to Hondata, they said to tap on the negative side. That's why it's important to get that wiring diagram. We're gonna cut the negative signal wire. We're gonna cut it and tap into it and run the rest into the module. Sounds a little complicated, but it's actually pretty easy. They have made it very easy. It's a very simple wiring setup. So this is your Hondata traction control module, and this is the wiring for it. We have a negative, which is a ground, 12-volt source, and the signal that goes to your ECU, speed sensor, speed sensor, speed sensor, and speed sensor. So we have 4 speed sensors, the signal to the ECU, a power, and a ground. Very simple. That's all that goes into this wiring. Okay, let's get started. What I have done first is the ABS module. I pulled the harness and I started cutting some of these wires. So each one of these is your speed sensor. Like I used it as an example before, the front right speed sensor, that one is pink and green. The pink is the negative side, the green is the positive side. So in order to install this system, we have to cut the negative side and tap into it. So I went ahead and cut all the negatives to the speed sensors. And I also I will be tapping in here for my ground and also for my power. So I'm gonna do everything on this side. Because the reason why I'm doing it on this side is because it's gonna make it very simple. There's an access point inside the wheel well right there. Let me see if I could get if you pop that off, you can see inside of the vehicle. So we're gonna be running our harness through there. So it just makes it a lot easier to tap everything in here. So now that we have all that opened up, we're gonna start tapping in the harness for the module. Okay, this is on the harness to the traction control box. I'm gonna teach you guys how to pretty much strip these wires. There's 2 methods. You could use this one and find a gauge for the wire and just strip it out. That's with this one. Or you could use the other tool. You put it in there. There you go. Just make sure you do that to all the wires on the module side for the traction control box. You're gonna have to strip all of these. Give yourself a lot of room with the wires. Like that one, I will have to make it longer. It's just gonna make it easier once you start soldering and tapping into those wires. Okay, one thing that I kind of forgot to mention, the reason why we cut in the negative side is because this is an active speed sensor. So Hondata wants you to, for the active one, to just cut the negative, just one wire for the speed sensor on the negative side and tap into it. And you're gonna connect one side for it. This is coming out of the module, out of the Hondata traction control box. You're gonna tap into the car here and here, and that's how it's gonna be ran through. For right now, to do it temporary, I'm just gonna twist it in place and put some tape on it just so I could test everything and make sure everything's good. Once I figure out everything is working properly, then I'll come back and solder everything in. Okay, on the ECU side, once again, this is a 2007 Civic Si 4-door, so you're gonna have to get the specific wiring for your specific vehicle. On this car, once you pull out the ECU, the first plug, looking at it this way, is your A plug. Once you pull that out, you're gonna grab your connector, and then from the back side, you're gonna count. It's gonna be labeled. So just count out the pins, and on this particular one, it's A23. A is the plug, 23 is the pin, which is this orange one. We're gonna cut this one out, and that's where we're gonna tap in our traction control system, where it's gonna send a signal to the ECU to retard the timing to reduce the power. So I'm gonna cut this out and tap into it. Okay, everything has tape and it's just temporary install. So we could check if we have the right wheel and the right speed sensor, and just making sure everything works in that module. So I tap that in there, which once again, it comes from that connector. All I did is I pulled the harness through and tap in the back of it. And on the ECU side, right there, that's where we tap into it. That's the connector. So I'm gonna connect the battery and show you guys how it's working. Alright guys, we pretty much got everything taped and tapped in. Now we're gonna test it. So how you do this is you plug the module back in, plug in your ECU, make sure everything has tape on it, that nothing's gonna get shorted out, and then connect the ECU and turn your ignition to the on position, not to start the car, just right before it. Once you have all that, you have your switch, turn your switch on. That's gonna give it power to the module, and you're gonna start to spin the wheel. On these, it's gonna indicate which wheel you're spinning. So for example, that was the the right front. So that light should have lit up. Which it is. Now I'm gonna spin some of the other wheels so you guys could kind of see what I mean. Once you check that everything is working like you want it to, now you could go ahead and solder everything in and run your harness. I guess I could show you guys how I'm gonna run mine so you guys could have a better idea. Alright, the wiring is pretty much done. I'm gonna just show you guys kind of what I did. It's gonna be running inside the glove box, but I'll do that later. So that's the harness, and we got it through that plug right down there. It's kind of hard to see, but that's where all the harness was fed through. Now as far as the fender, right there. Make sure you guys secure your harness really well. You don't want it to loosen up and hit your wheel, because that will damage that harness. There you go. This is what it looks like at the module, at the ABS module. And this is the signal wire that goes to the ECU. Also, make sure you secure it. You don't want any issues with the wire rubbing anything. It goes from here underneath into the harness. And that's pretty much it as far as the wiring. Very simple. So I'll probably make a video out of a full review on it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.